Book 1, Part 2, Chapter 11. Next day he woke late. Recalling his recent impressions, the first thought that came into his mind was that today he had to be presented to the Emperor Francis. He remembered the Minister of War, the polite Austrian adjutant, Bilibin, and last night's conversation. Having dressed for his attendance at court in full parade uniform, which he had not worn for a long time, he went into Bilibin's study fresh, animated and handsome, with his hand bandaged. In the study were 4 gentlemen of the diplomatic corps. With Prince Ippolit Kuragin, who was a secretary to the embassy, Bolkonsky was already acquainted. Bilibin introduced him to the others. The gentlemen assembled at Bilibin's were young, wealthy, merry society men who here, as in Vienna, formed a special set which Bilibin, their leader, called Les Nôtres. This set, consisting almost exclusively of diplomats, evidently had its own interests which had nothing to do with war or politics, but related to high society, to certain women, and to the official side of the service. These gentlemen received Prince Andrei as one of themselves, an honor they did not extend to many. From politeness and to start conversation, they asked him a few questions about the army and the battle, and then the talk went off into merry jests and gossip.
"But the best of it was,"
said one, telling of the misfortune of a fellow diplomat,
"that the Chancellor told him flatly that his appointment to London was a promotion, and that he was so to regard it.
Can you fancy the figure he cut?
But the worst of it, gentlemen, I am giving Kuragin away to you, is that man suffers, and this Don Juan, wicked fellow, is taking advantage of it."
Prince Ippolit was lolling in the lounge chair with his legs over its arm. He began to laugh.
"Parle-moi de ça,"
he said.
"Oh, you Don Juan, you serpent,"
cried several voices.
"You, Bolkonsky, don't know,"
said Bilibin, turning to Prince Andrei,
"that all the atrocities of the French army, I nearly said of the Russian army, are nothing compared to what this man has been doing among the women."
"La femme et la campagne de l'homme," announced Prince Ippolit, and began looking through a lorgnette at his elevated legs. Bilibin and the rest of ours burst out laughing in Ippolit's face, and Prince Andrei saw that Ippolit, of whom, he had to admit, he had almost been jealous on his wife's account, was the butt of this set.
"Oh, I must give you a treat,"
Bilibin whispered to Bolkonsky.
"Kuragin is exquisite when he discusses politics. You should see his gravity."
He sat down beside Ippolit and, wrinkling his forehead, began talking to him about politics. Prince Andrei and the others gathered round these two.
"Le cabinet de Berlin ne peut pas exprimer un sentiment d'alliance,"
began Ippolit, gazing round with importance at the others.
"Sans exprimer, comme dans sa dernière note. Vous comprenez? Et puis, si Sa Majesté l'Empereur ne dérogeait pas au principe de notre alliance... Attendez, je n'ai pas fini,"
he said to Prince Andrei, seizing him by the arm. "Je suppose que l'intervention sera plus fort que la non-intervention. Et," he paused, "on ne pourra pas imputer à la fin de non-recevoir notre dépêche de 28 novembre. Voilà comment tout cela finira." And he released Bolkonsky's arm to indicate that he had now quite finished.
"Démosthène, je te reconnais au caillou que tu as caché dans ta bouche d'or,"
said Bilibin, and the mop of hair on his head moved with satisfaction. Everybody laughed, and Ippolit louder than anyone. He was evidently distressed and breathed painfully, but could not restrain the wild laughter that convulsed his usually impassive features. "Well now, gentlemen," said Bilibin, "Bolkonsky is my guest in this house and in Brünn itself. I want to entertain him, as far as I can, with all the pleasures of life here. If we were in Vienna it would be easy, but here, dans ce vilain trou morave, it is more difficult, and I beg you all to help me. Il faut lui faire les honneurs de Brünn. You can undertake the theatre, I society, and you, Ippolit, of course, the women."
"We must let him see Amélie, she's exquisite,"
said one of ours, kissing his fingertips.
"In general, we must turn this bloodthirsty soldier to more humane interests,"
said Bilibin. "I shall scarcely be able to avail myself of your hospitality, gentlemen. It is already time for me to go," replied Prince Andrei, looking at his watch.
"Where to?"
"To the Emperor."
"Ho, ho, ho!
Well, goodbye, Bolkonsky."
"Goodbye, Prince. Come back early to dinner,"
cried several voices.
"We'll take you in hand."
When speaking to the Emperor, try as far as you can to praise the way that provisions are supplied and the routes indicated, said Bilibin, accompanying him to the hall. I should like to speak well of them, but as far as I know the facts, I can't, replied Bolkonsky, smiling.
Well, talk as much as you can anyway. He has a passion for giving audiences, but he does not like talking himself, and can't do it, as you will see.